Welcome. Good to
Hey
see you.
Poe, how are you?
I'm good.
Good to see you. It's been a long time.
Look at that.
I know. I'm so glad it made it.
Me too. Oh, I just, I sat at home for like 2 days and then, finally it said it was going to come and I had to leave and I was like so worried that, I was going to like have to wait days longer to get it. But then,
Oh no.
luckily I live in the middle of nowhere, so putting a sign on the door that says Dear FedEx, please put it inside my house was perfectly fine.
Right.
So I was like,
That's good.
oh, please don't like rob me or whatever, but it was fine.
Or just throw it over the fence, right?
Yeah, right. Oh man. So that's your shop, huh?
So you
You're at your
well, this is
shop?
the shop that I work in. I moved here to Athens, Georgia, last April to take over the repair side of the Baxendale guitar shop.
Yeah,
Before that, I was still in Humboldt County and working under the the moniker of Humboldt Guitar Works, and
cool.
doing what I could to stay busy. But since I've been here, I'm always super busy. It's been great. It's been a really wild year as far as the pandemic. People are still buying guitars and selling guitars, so they're fixing them up to sell. And then people are also, because they now have time from not having shows, they're having a lot of big jobs like refrets and neck resets and rebuilds done that they haven't been able to get to. So it's kept me busy.
Definitely a good time. I know from touring and whatnot, like sometimes you get a buzz in your guitar and you don't have time, and people are like, why is it buzzing? And you're like, I've had like 30 shows in a row. Like, I'm sorry.
Right. No time for fret work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
So it's
yeah, I love that, like getting a fret job done, like it's like so amazing, like when all of a sudden everything is just like new and sounds clean and it's just fun. So yeah, I brought this guitar up to you in Humboldt County when you were there. And then
mhm.
so at that time, how long had you been doing luthier work?
Um, I've been doing it professionally for about 8 years now.
Okay.
I was turning 30 and felt like I was losing direction in my life, and I wanted to regain my artistic, composure and also be able to make money with it. Um, and so I went to Nashville and did an apprenticeship with a guy who I hated. We hated each other, well, hate's a strong word. We didn't like each other. He
So he
insisted that
was a
I
good
live with
teacher then,
him.
you're saying.
Well, he insisted that I live with him, and there were
Oh,
a lot of
LA.
things. I couldn't get a part-time job. It was all about kind of being with him. So that lasted about 2 months. I lasted with that about 2 months. We just couldn't do it. So
Whoa.
I moved back. I moved back to Humboldt County because my then girlfriend was there, and I got a job with a manufacturer of custom guitar parts called Wildwood Manufacturing, and they started as Wildwood Banjos 25 years ago, and then the shop was bought by someone else, and they turned it into basically like a CNC guitar factory. And I worked there for 3 years, worked my way up, and then decided like, okay, I'm gonna go out on my own and start building my own custom guitars and doing repair as well. Um,
That's awesome.
and so I've built a handful of custom guitars, but mostly it's been, the bread and butter work is doing um, refrets, neck resets, setups, things like that. So I wish I could build more, but repair has kind of taken over, and that's why I got this job here. So
Pretty
I
sure
think,
all guitar players love the repair guys. It's
yeah,
like,
right.
fix my
Um,
baby. Oh,
so God, I think that was like 4 or 5 years ago that you brought me the guitar in in Humboldt. So I had been going strong for about 3 or 4 years when I got the guitar from you. Um,
but I remember you
and
had said that it was a unique break in the guitar, and so it was something that you hadn't done yet. Can you
Yeah.
tell me like a little bit more about like the break of this actual guitar and like why, why was
Yeah.
that something different? And
Well, typically when the headstock breaks, there's still a little bit connected, and yours was completely broken off, right? Um, and it disconnected. And, because you're a rock star, when it broke off, you threw it. So I had to reconnect it without having any sort of guide of it still being connected.
oh,
And to make it as clean as possible, I built a special jig, and clamped it up, so that it would be connected as if it still had a piece connected, holding the back side of the neck on. And because of the way the brakes, typically go, whenever you clamp it, it wants to slide apart like this. So you have to put pressure on the top side of it as well. And so,
oh wow.
yeah, so it was interesting. So yeah, without there being that connection still, when you glue it up, it wants to slide. So I built a special thing that kind of held the headstock and kept it from sliding apart when I glued it up. And I also didn't want to do a lot of finish work as far as painting it. So I used a 5-ton epoxy, and I put some dye in it to make the epoxy turn black.
Oh,
Um,
wow. You can't
and
even see it. Like
yeah, it
there's
turned out really good.
if you look like really, really closely, there's like a tiny, tiny little discoloration like this, but you can't even like I
Yeah,
can't even see any break here at all or on this side. Like
yeah,
I
you
think
can
the
see
only
a
place
little
you
bit
can
of it at
see
the
it is like
face.
in the actual inlay.
Right.
You can see like a tiny little crack there, or like
And
where
then
the paint was put back together or whatever. But
yeah, and then down on the body, on the treble side of your lower bout, that's where it was kind of bashed up. If you go down onto the body of the guitar, yeah, right there where your face is at, on the front side of the front. Like, let me show you.
oh, on the front.
Right here on the guitar, it was
Yeah.
bashed up right there as well, and so that's also been repaired. Um,
I don't see
and
anything.
yeah, you
That's like
see, yeah. I can,
it's
I
just so
can, I
cool.
know where it's at. I'm not gonna, if you can't see it, I'm not gonna tell you where it's
I can't see anything.
at. And your bridge was removed and reglued. You have a new bone saddle and a new bone nut, and your
That's so
frets
cool.
were recrowned and polished. So it should last, until rock and roll happens again, which it does. It's
So
supposed to.
what usually causes a neck to completely snap off like that? Is it just, do you think it was just like the weather from like me touring the way that I did? Because when I had that guitar is when I was doing that trains, planes, and automobile tour because my van had blown up. So I had started going like on trains and rideshare, airplanes. Sometimes random people or friends or fans would say, "Oh, I want to go for 3 days," and they'd pick me up and take me on a couple shows, and then leave me in some city and drive home. So it was like never. It wasn't like some people have like a humidifier and they have they take care of their baby. This thing was like
Sure.
strapped to a cart and like carried like drug across the country basically. So
I remember your cart. Remember that little cart you had? I mean,
I
I
had
remember the
so
last time I
many.
saw you with that cart, it was so busted, and I was like, wow. I mean, it was
Yeah.
something else. So the typical headstock break is really common on a Gibson.
Okay.
Gibsons, because of the way the headstock neck area is designed, it gets really thin right there, and you also have the area that's cut away for the truss rod access, underneath that cover. And so there's not a lot of wood right there. And that's really just a poor design that Gibson, has carried throughout their history. So, Gibson Gibson neck brakes are like they're repair people bread and butter because
Wow.
Gibson necks always break, and you have the string
Is
tension
there
pulling on.
is there a reason why Gibson do you think that like chooses to like have less wood there or whatever it makes it so that it's more fragile in that way?
Well, there's a way to combat it with it's called a volute. Let me see if I can find a.
This
And
is
you
so
can kind
funny.
of see on this guitar, and this is a cheaper guitar, but you can kind of see like how the back of the headstock, it has this like little bump right here. And that's
Oh,
called the volute. And that's to add some more, meat behind the nut right there. But
that's interesting. I've never seen that before. The lute.
with
I thought a lute was
yeah.
just those weird instruments with the
Oh,
backwards.
that's a lute. This is a volute,
Oh,
volute. And so
volute. Okay.
this is acoustic, and it's not so thin, but it's still just a flat that goes straight to the curve. There's not a lot of meat there. So
That's interesting.
uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
so this guitar, the guy that I got it from, he worked for Epiphone and the Chinese side, and so he basically said that this guitar, they were created from Gibson, but it was sort of like a cheaper manufacturing process, but it was the same similar designs that they've been using in Gibson for a long time. So this was like, they basically took the Gibson design and then took it over to China and had people build it.
sure.
So it was just, that's how it became the Epiphone.
Yeah, the Epiphone name has been around um, since the early 30s, I believe, at least the early 30s. And they were a competitor with Gibson for many years. And somewhere around, I believe, the mid 50s, Gibson bought the Epiphone name, and they took the name up to Kalamazoo. And so there's a lot of really nice like 60s Epiphones. Um, like the Texan acoustic guitar and guitars like that. And then somewhere around, I believe it was like the mid 70s, they started, making the Epiphones in Japan. And they started making, and this is not fact. This is like fact off the top of my head. So if anyone has any, you know, comments, then please correct me. But,
Yes,
um,
please comment. I'm learning here. I'm like, wow, this is
right.
fun.
But then so the Epiphone name kind of became that like Fender Squire, kind of known as the cheaper brand of Epiphones, but Epiphone for a long time, has been around, and like 30s Gibson Epiphones. Dave Rawlings from Gillian Welch and Dave Rawlings, he plays a
Yeah.
really nice 1937 Epiphone Olympic arch top, and it just sounds incredible. They made great
Yeah.
instruments. So,
Their music is
um,
beautiful for sure.
yeah. But yours is a very particularly cool, like to me, it being a Dave Navarro Epiphone and having the cool inlays, and it says Jane on the heads on the truss rod cover. Yeah, that's so cool. Whenever I was young, I was a really big Jane's Addiction fan, and and he also played for the Red Hot Chili Peppers for a while. Like Dave Navarro was a super cool '90s guitar player. So it's a cool guitar. It's unique. You
It
don't
is
see many of
cool.
those.
Yeah, it was definitely like a super fun adventure to get it too, because like initially when you said like I've never repaired a break like that, I'd really like to repair the guitar, and I had said, oh, just give it away when you're done. The main reason I had said that was because in tradition for me with guitars, I've never purchased a guitar. I've never purchased
Sure.
a guitar. Every guitar I've ever had has been given to me. So my first guitar was a Christmas present from my dad, and then it was like an electric guitar, and I wanted to play an acoustic guitar, and because I was starting to do like street performance and busking and stuff, and
Hmm.
so I had been playing like some random guitar that he had in the house. It was like, you know, the action was like really high off the strings and it was super hard to play. And I was like, my fingers were bleeding on the sidewalk and I didn't care because I was singing, you know. And I was in Seattle and I was out in front of this guitar shop and somebody walked by and said, you know, you need a better guitar than that. And I said, feel free to buy me one. And so he walked into the guitar shop and he bought me a guitar. It was like a $200 Cort guitar.
Oh, cool. Right.
And so I was like, cool, all right, I got myself a better guitar. And so I played that one for a while until someone says, you know, you sing great and your guitar sucks, you know. And I said, feel free to buy me one. And so, you know, this guitar was given to that, and just like on and on. And then the stories of how I've gotten each guitar has been so crazy. And every time I've been given a guitar, I've given my other guitar away because I figured it was part of the rules of the game. I don't know where it came from, but that's what I had in my head. I remember when I was younger and I worked at this, you know, awful little job, and there was a guy that was working on work release because he was like still in jail, but he was coming and working during the day. And so when he got out of jail, like officially, that was one thing he talked about all the time, about wanting to play the guitar, and he used to play the guitar before he was in jail. So when this person saw me singing, some random person saw me singing on the sidewalk and bought me that first little Cort guitar, the crappy little guitar that I had at the time, I gave it to him. And so then each time I would get a new guitar, I would do the same thing. And there was always someone a musician who, like, you know, it was like in a rut and had to sell their guitar, or, you know, whatever the situation is, and they didn't have an instrument. And I was like, well, yeah, you've got to have an instrument, you know. And so I was always giving them away. And so, and this one was given to me in Portland when I was performing a show, and someone said, you sing great and your guitar sucks. And I said, buy me a new one. And he actually worked for Epiphone, and he was like the guitar guy that explained like why they are designed the way that they're designed. And he was all about like the internal structure of the guitar and all that. But between him and another person at the show that was just happened to hear the conversation and was like, well, I'll buy you a guitar. And he's like, well, I'll sell it to you wholesale for her.
Nice.
And so that's how I got this guitar. And I was totally, completely, you know, submitting to the whole thing and thinking it was going to go to someone else. But I was really grateful that you decided to give it back to me, because I've had such a crazy couple of years and I haven't been able to play the guitar as much as I used to, you know, however many hours a day, because I have an injury in my shoulder. And so when I actually play the guitar, my arms go numb and I can't feel my hands. And so I can play for about 15-20 minutes at a time before I'm like in excruciating pain. So when I got this guitar back, it was, I don't know, I can't really explain it really, but it just really, I don't know, it's like a spiritual thing. I can't explain it. It's just, it felt like encouragement. And what made you decide to give it back to me instead of giving it to someone else?
Well, to go back, I mean, I can totally relate to your story about having never bought a guitar. My dad's been a songwriter in Nashville for going on 50 years. He literally like went to Nashville when he was 16 with his guitar that was given to him, and I think he bought his first guitar a couple of years ago. And he had a chance to buy a cheap guitar, and he's like, you know, he's in his mid 60s now, you know, and he's written songs for a lot of people in Nashville, and he's always had the same experience where he's been given guitars, or he's inherited guitars, or they've come to him because of his talent, you know, and people are like, shit, what am I doing with this guitar? You have this guitar, you know. And so, you know, I can really appreciate that story about, you know, like, you know, when you're extremely talented and you sing as well as you do, yeah, people just feel like they need to pay tribute to you or give you, you know, the compliment of upgrading your guitar, and that's really cool.
It's so
but
cool.
The reason that I would not give that guitar to anybody else and I wrote about this in my Instagram whenever I posted the picture of you with your guitar that you sent me, because it was just really inspiring for me. You and I met in 2009 at a very magical place, and I met you my very first day there. And I had just recently basically fallen off the turnip truck. Like, I had moved out from Kentucky for a semester at Humboldt State, and through some people had ended up in this magical place. And my first day there, they were like, hey, there's some musicians playing down the road. And so we walked down this dirt country road from one house to another, and there you are with that guitar, you know. And you had some friends with you, and you were playing. And so I had never seen you without that guitar. And when I saw you, I think over the next probably, that was 2009. So I've known you for about 12 years now. If you gave me the guitar 3 or 4 years ago to fix, then, you know, I had known you for 8 years at that point, and we were always running into each other in this magical place, right? And you always had that guitar. So the idea of, like, I don't know, it's just kind of a piece of you at that point, right? And you know, we're both, you know, in our late 30s now, you know, so losing connection with something that's been with us through such an important part of our lives, I don't know, it just seems like it's too special to just give to someone else, because nobody could ever know the history like you do of that guitar. And you know, part of what I do is preservation and restoration of guitars. So the things that I appreciate the most are the stories that go along with the guitars I work on. I work on a lot of instruments that, you know, people tell me, like, yeah, my dad came home every single day from work and went out on the porch, and he played this guitar until the sun went down, you know, and so they carry the stories of the people who play them, you know. And so for it to break and you to have such a harsh kind of end with the guitar, it didn't seem right, you know, to just like
Well, I
then give
love
it
and
to a student.
appreciate it. It's like
Yeah,
created this whole other magic to, you know, not just to the guitar, but to my relationship to playing guitar and too, because,
right.
you know, like we hadn't talked other than, you know, probably social media or whatever for the last few years because life happens. And so it just all of a sudden became this really fun opportunity for us to, like, you know, rekindle this friendship and excitement over
Yeah,
something that we both love. And
right.
you know, especially right now when it's like, you know, people aren't seeing their friends as much and just things are just not the same. You know, and so it's
Yeah,
just so much fun to, like, kind of bring that to life. And of course, like, I pulled it out of that box, and as soon as I got this thing tuned, it was like I played as long as I could until my arms hurt, and then I stopped, and then I kept playing, and I stopped, and I kept playing. Finally made myself go to bed, and then when I woke up in the morning, my arms were hurting like crazy, and I didn't care, and I kept playing it more because I just started remembering, you know, you'd requested a couple of songs, which
sure.
I did actually. I recorded them, and I'll attach them to the end of this video so everyone can see. But it was so much fun to, like, relearn these songs and feeling like, you know, all this music is inside that guitar, and including the fact in reality that, like, I legitimately wrote a love song for this guitar, and I forgot that I had done that until it was back in my arms again. And it was
Right.
this moment in time where it was like, you know, I'd written love songs before and been brokenhearted and disappointed and gone through relationships. You know, and then I was like, you know what, this is who's been with me, this is who has been right by my side every time I'm sad, every time I need to try to figure out how I feel, anytime I need to try to express myself or try to process something. You know, my guitar was right there for me,
Sure.
encouraging me to figure it out and with no judgments. So I was
Right.
like,
Always.
this baby deserves a love song. And so I wrote the song called Run. And it basically was just about, like, running, you know, into my passion, towards my passion, regardless of where it took me and what that what all that entailed. So it
Right.
was just like, oh my gosh, that's my long lost love. And um my partner was like, what are you getting all dressed up for? Because it was like 9 o'clock at night when I got home and the box was there. And I was like, well, I'm about to open the box. And he's like, you're putting on your eyelashes? And I was like, well, would you, you know, have a meeting with a long lost love or friend or whatever, like, and not look nice? And he was just laughing
Right.
at me. And he
Right.
was like,
And it's so
what
cool
are you
because like
talking about?
you had you know, art on the case and stickers, and you know, inside there were still like strings and
Yeah.
notes and signs from the road, you know, like. And I've been in the you know, I was kind of, you know, as you know, hitchhiking and things like that in my 20s, you know. And so I, every now and then, I'm going through something and I'll find like an old sign that just says north, you know, like things like that were in the case, you know. And that's like someone else getting that, they would never understand like the appreciation and the love that you had felt and dealt with this guitar. So it's like
And
and
the
I even
tape,
like
the tape on the case. You see
I
there's
put new
not the
tape on the
black
case.
tape on the case. That was something I completely forgot that it was even coming in a case, for one. And two, I have this friend, Matt, and up in the Seattle area, and it was sort of like this really kind and loving gift he would give me every time I'd pass through town, as he'd take my case and he'd rip off all the old tape and he'd put new tape and he'd try to make my case like as strong and nice as he possibly could. And he'd be like, there you go. And I'd just be like, oh, thanks so much. Like, it was just like this little gift every time, and it held that case together for years. And so to
Yeah,
like see that tape, it was just like, even that tape is a reminder of a friendship and something.
absolutely. And
So
you've been all over the world with that guitar, right? Like you and Thomas went to Europe with that guitar, right?
yep, we did the Songs
Awesome.
and Whispers tour, and we went all throughout Germany. We played house parties in Germany.
Sure.
I mean, it was so amazing. We played in Holland in the weed shops, and we played in Belgium, and we played in France, and I mean, it was just so much fun. We played all different kinds of little clubs and festivals and whatever. But then the house parties, I think, I'll just never forget, because my German's not so good. I'm familiar with it because my papa is half Dutch, half German.
Mhm.
He was a survivor of the Holocaust and an immigrant to the United States. And so it was fun on that tour because I went to certain towns and he'd be like, oh, that's where my brother was born, or, things like that. But then here we are in these houses, and like there was a contest, I think, at some point where they put us in the paper, and whoever won got to have us come to their house and perform. And so we went, and no one spoke English at all. Everyone spoke German. And I remember Thomas, he just like cracked me up because, they were not shy about talking to us, even though we didn't understand them. And they'd just be speaking German to us, and we'd be like, oh wow, cool, that's amazing, we don't know what you're saying, but this is super fun, and thanks for having us at your house, and blah blah blah. And we'd talk back and they'd talk to us, and who knows what we were saying, nobody knows. And they fed us, and then the whole family gathered in the living room, and I think there was like maybe 20 people there at the most, maybe 15, on the couches and on the floors. And it was me and Thomas and Frankie Linderman, how
Oh yeah, yeah.
the cajon, and then uh my brain is blanking, but the bass player, the cellist, Jake was on cello, from the Boise Cello Collective, he came with, and Skylar. There we go, Skylar. Sorry, names for me. I have a
It's
brain
been a
injury, so
while.
I can never remember anybody's names anymore. It's really frustrating. But I got them. I got them. I got them. It's coming back. It's coming back. I'm on the rebound. So yeah, this is so awesome. I just love and appreciate it so much, so much, so much, so much, that I was like, I've gotta like share this with people and share your cute face, and you get a nice little look at your shop. And so can
Yeah,
you tell me one more thing about
sure.
Keel Kraft guitars? That's your
Mhm.
moniker on Instagram. So
Right.
are you kind of like a, like a freelance like entrepreneur, and then companies hire you for different things, or how does
Yeah,
that
so
work?
I work. Scott Baxendale has been a luthier for the last 40 or 50 years. He worked for Mossman Guitars, then he owned Mossman Guitars. Um, he was in Colorado in the Denver area for quite a while, and then he moved to Athens about 10 years ago. And he has a shop here in Athens where he takes old Ks and harmonies and he takes them apart, or he has a crew that takes them apart and they take the old ladder bracing out of them and they put X style Martin bracing in. And so they have a whole company built around that. And they get a bunch of repair that comes in. So last year they were trying to find someone to take over the repair side of the business. So I'm basically a private contractor that does repair for this shop, and I work here at this shop. I have a small little shop, room that I work out of. The other crew is upstairs, and so basically, I'm a private contractor doing repair, and then Keel Kraft is my custom guitar brand. Um, and for
So
me,
that's
I'd always
actually like you're building the guitars, like you're kind of
right, yeah,
guitar art.
yeah,
That's
yeah. They're 100% custom guitars. I had always wanted to be an artist my whole life, um, and I had never been able to like grasp a medium. You know what I mean? I felt like I was kind of, I was had an art minor in college. I never felt confident enough to have an art, major in art. So I minored in art and majored in communication. And then after college, I was doing a bunch of odd jobs, and I was still always kind of trying to like find my medium. I had a painting instructor in Kentucky in college that told me she wouldn't hire me to paint her house. And I would do these crazy things like we would have the Naked Life models come in and we would paint them. And then I didn't want to take home pictures of these naked people, so I would paint them up as clowns and grease paint and give them tattoos and stuff. And she just didn't like me. And so I'd always been around guitars. My dad's a musician and a guitar player. My godfather was the guitar player for the Hank Williams Jr. band in the
Oh
80s, and
wow.
like so all of these people around me always had guitars, um, and
But
I've always
Luthier's
played.
like traditionally Luthier, it doesn't mean just guitar repair, right? So do you repair other types of instruments, or you solely focus
Yeah,
on guitar?
any stringed instrument, yeah, I
Any string
repair,
instrument.
yeah.
Cool.
But so I was always kind of looking for my medium, and I decided like, okay, I want to build guitars. I want to build custom guitars. There was one guitar in particular that I wanted to recreate. I still haven't done it yet because it's a different process. But so I kind of started, making guitars kind of my art. Um, so repair pays my bills. I make really good money, as far as for a labor job, because it's still manual labor, doing guitar repair. So I'm very kind of persnickety about when I'm building a guitar. I have to have creative license, and I don't build anything that is, I'll build shapes that are based on common production guitars, but I don't use any of the attributes that are, similar or would be mistaken for a Fender or a Gibson or anything like that. So it's
That's
really a good balance for me, and I really enjoy having um, found my
your niche.
medium. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's so cool. So
And
people, if they want to check you out and see, you're on Instagram, do you also have a website or any other places people can contact you? So
I
just on
don't.
Instagram.
I
So
am I am a I'm a chiseled guy. I'm like really bad with computer stuff. I really need to work on getting a website. My niece is 17 and she was telling me last night that she wants to go to college for computer programming, and I was like, maybe you can build your Uncle Dylan a website. But yeah, Instagram has been
yeah,
great for me. It's great for promotion.
love it.
Um, I've sold quite a few guitars on Instagram, and have a small following of
Cool.
like-minded people. But hopefully soon there will be a website.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're out of time as far as this little program will allow. But yeah, everybody, if you'd like to follow Dylan Keel, please go to Keel Kraft Guitars on Instagram and stay tuned for the requested songs he asked me to play on this guitar.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Poeina. It's been so great talking to you and good to see you. And I look forward to hearing your voice again.
Absolutely.
Hello. So I spent all night up awake with my baby, my old new friend, and by special request by Dylan Keel of Keel Kraft Guitars, had to relearn 2 of my old songs. The first one, Your Turn to Drive. Sometimes people call it Back on the Road Again. And then a song called For Her. So here we go. There's too many temptations holding down my ear. Too many people like me living life out of fear. So joining a man should be beginning like any other day. Joining I'll be another string insisting to play. And your turn to drive, wipe the sleep out of your eyes, singing along with the Grateful Dead. Back on the road, back on the road again. Your way the chorus with beautiful lines. Oh, across the bold stranger who waits I go by. And I'm a land of courage, a depth of intellect. I just know when the life ain't that easy, it's just what you get. Your turn to drive, wind the cheese out of my eyes, sing along with the Grateful Dead. Back on the road, back on the road again. Back on the road again. You being nervous, I take it as a good sign. You know, all I can promise is to be helpless in the meantime. Too many temptations, they're holding down my heart. Well, with too many people like me, and they running from the start. Your turn to drive, wipe the tears out of my eyes, sing along with the Grateful Dead. Back on the road, back on the road again. Back on the road again. Oh, back on the road again. Masochizing me again, intoxicated lungs, while I'm working for a break, just to break out when I'm done, like an inmate finally free. I wanted to do for her what I could not do for me. Like the icy cracks your teeth, do bad on a swallow. Can't claim to be the savior of all. Some small torture crazy, like a frozen waterfall. If you let it go. them with storm-back cages. Warm cover, gritted holly, all that brings it to the drone of a love, lust, expectation. When I'm done, like an inmate, finally free. And I wanted to do for her what you could not do for me, what you could not do, what you could not do for me, baby. More or less. There we go. There we go.
If you like this video, you can thank Keel Kraft Guitars, and please like, comment, subscribe to this channel, and thank you so much for tuning in.